Let's talk now to Rupert Bell, who is, of course, Talk's a royal correspondent, because the Duke of Sussex, believe it or not, Harry the Herbert, as I like to call him, is going to be able to appeal against a High Court ruling which dismissed his last challenge over a decision to downgrade his level of personal security. This story, Rupert, seems to be going round and round and round, like the sort of, the entrails of a mad monk, for want of a better description.
Well, it is interesting because when the first announcement came out from the High Court, basically he turned round to Harry's team and said, you haven't got a case to answer for, and put it in pretty strong terms. However, Harry's team said we are going to appeal. Well, the judge who looked at the appeal said they do have a case to answer for, and with RAVEC, who are the body that determined security for members of the royal family, and suggesting that actually he might have a case, that they didn't go through the correct procedure when it came to determining what sort of security Harry should have. And it obviously is a grey area, because obviously Harry's team would say, look, I am a high-profile member of the royal family, and we can't disagree with that.
No.
That I'm always going to be a security vulnerable person. Yet at the same time, he goes off to Nigeria, which is not necessarily deemed to be the most secure place in the world, and yet he has his security team there. So whereas if he goes to a royal palace or the like, the security around places are incredible. So this is the problem for RAVEC. How do they manage Harry in such a way that he deems that his family and children will be safe here? He says he wants full-blown, but as a non-working member of the royal family, well, the royal family say, well, you've backed off now.
Yeah, right.
So,
also, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit fed up, as I'm sure most people in this country are getting fed up with this kid refusing to take no for an answer, throwing his toys out of the pram every time he gets told he can't have something, and using not just his own money stupidly to pay loads of lawyers, but making sure that the taxpayer is also billed to the tune of hundreds of thousands of pounds just because he can't get his own way.
Well, that is a legitimate argument, but he would say my security comes first and I should have it. It's not my decision. He was.
But he does have it. That's the point. When he comes here, he does get it, doesn't he? That's the whole ludicrous nature of the argument.
Yes, and also he can't just suddenly turn up tomorrow. He has to let them know, and then they will assess the security situation around his visit.
Right.
But at the moment, he's homeless in this country, so he has no base, so they have to find him somewhere.
Right. He didn't seem to mind going to Nigeria without Her Majesty's protection.
Well, he had security, his own security, plus Nigeria government provided the relevant security on top. So whenever he will do one of these visits, I am sure part of the decision will be to make sure I have maximum security. But
if you're a working royal and you go to Nigeria, you would get the royal security patrol that would go along with you, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And obviously the visit to Nigeria probably has upset members of the royal household, because it wasn't a state visit. But it was looked, for all intents and purposes, like a royal visit. It was deemed to be something that was promoting Invictus Games, but my only take from it seemed to be it was all about Meghan. It wasn't really about the Invictus Games, which was the original intention, to try and drum up support for possibly the Invictus Games coming to Nigeria down the line.
Yeah.
So, but all the fallout from it was all about Meghan.
Exactly. I was talking to somebody the other day about all of this as well. It's all gone a bit quiet on the Meghan front, hasn't it? I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that she was telling us that she's got all these projects on the go, can't wait to get started, all sorts of, movies that are going to be made, the Polo documentary that he's doing, the American Riviera orchard nonsense, with 50 bottles of jam that have been sent out but nothing else is happening. What the hell are they doing?
Well, these works in progress, these documentaries.
Yeah, I've got a lot of works in progress as well.
There's a lot of talk and a lot of things in pipelines, which we may see the light of day. They need their Netflix deal, some things to go onto Netflix to cement the future plans for that. It's not easy for them trying to navigate their way around, trying to be viable. And for Harry, he does seem at times a bit of a lost cause, sort of not sure what he's doing. Polo, obviously, something that's dear to his heart,
of course,
but it's going off.
It's such a diverse and inclusive sport, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, he says through gritted teeth. Yes, but obviously it's a high roller and people love all the sort of showbiz. But it will be, if it's Harry's doing it, it will be controlled within an inch of its life. So would be a sort of warts and all documentary about polo, which, I'm sure there's lots of interesting tales. But will it be just a bit saccharine, which they want to control everything, as we saw. They seem to have favoured press, everything. There's no rough edges, and Harry wants to have total control of the narrative, as does Meghan. But it's a very hard one for them to control, because a lot of people who don't believe their story.
Well, that's it. And also, when they sort of use their sources to tell People magazine, which seems to be the only place they sort of put their views through, that, of course, Harry was invited to the Duke of Westminster's wedding, but he decided not to go because he thought it might be a bit awkward. I mean, they just can't help themselves, can they?
Yeah, well, and of course, that wedding is today in Chester. The greater good of the aristocracy will be there. The Prince William will be there acting as usher. And it's a shame because, he should have been at the D-Day parade yesterday as an ex-serviceman. Yeah. People were really happy to see him there. Right. And what was wrong, that's what he's missing out on, because William did his bit there yesterday and by all accounts was very well received with what he didn't leave early. And yet he's got a wife at home who's still battling cancer. He saw it through and was very well received. But today he will be acting as an usher at his friend's wedding in Chester Cathedral. I think it takes place at 12 o'clock. And Harry should have been there. Yeah. But he's created a rift with his family. And until he finds a way, and I keep saying this, to say sorry to the rest of the royal family, he will be persona non grata at occasions like this in Chester.
Absolutely right. Rupert, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good weekend. Rupert Bell there talks, royal correspondent.